What's your most embarrassing sex story? Preparing for NAL with an ex-BF. I had done it many times successfully in the past and felt pretty confident about it. He lifted up my legs and asked, "Ready?" I said, "Ready as I'll ever be," and then let out the biggest, longest fart in world history. The farting wouldn't have been so bad if it weren't for my verbal response just moments before my sphincter decided to start singing. From then on, anytime I said, "Ready," in casual conversations like getting in the car, he would always say, "Ready as I'll ever be." Was having sex with my boyfriend. He flipped me over so we could do it doggy style, all going well. Suddenly I feel a lukewarm liquid splashing on my back. After a few seconds of splashing I stop and I'm like, WTF is going on back there? I turn around to find my BF sipping a mug of tea. He was trying to drink it while we were fucking. It was going cold, he said. He's never lived that one down. Can you tell we're British? As a tea-loving Brit myself I say jolly good show, but next time use lube. My girlfriend and I went on a picnic by canoe out to an island where there would have been no one around for at least a few kilometers. Long story short, she starts giving me a blowjob, which went on for a few minutes until I start to hear a strange noise getting louder. All of a sudden a search and rescue helicopter flies over the treeline and comes to a stop above us. It stayed there for a few seconds before turning around and flying back in the direction it came from. Bruh. Tried to pick a girl up and lay her down on a bed. Failed miserably. It was dark. We were slightly drunk. Slammed her head onto bedside table and knocked her out. 15 years later, she still sends an occasional selfie wearing a helmet. I didn't knock her out, but I went to pick my GF up over my shoulder and carry her to bed. Instead I slammed her head into the running ceiling fan above our heads. It was not nearly as sexy as I planned, but arguably more funny. The head injury probably explains why she's still with me. You, melted old people, is the girl involved. My husband and I were going at it doggy style, and things were going very well. I started to have an orgasm, and due to the angle and the pressure, the world's longest fart slipped out. So I start to laugh. So I'm coming, laughing and farting all at the same time. My hubby took it like a champ and laughed with me until I calmed down. Hat trick. Was home for summer from college. My neighbor and I had been secretly hooking up for a little bit, and she had been over a few days before when my parents were gone. Came home one day, and my mom was staring daggers at me. She said, "You have a mess to clean up," because I'm not doing it. I had no clue what she was talking about. Then she said to go look under the dining room table. Underneath it was a used condom that I had thrown into the bathroom trash can wrapped in toilet paper. My dog thought it would be cool to bring it downstairs and chew on it under the table. She threw up on my big dig twice because she decided to ignore her gag reflex. We're married now. We're married now. Naturally. Flew across the country for this guy. He couldn't get it up. Found out he has a foot fetish. He jerked off while sucking my toes. Then he cried and I comforted him. And I had 9 more nights with him. Well, at least one of you got to come. And the other got to have cum on her stomach, wondering what she did up to this point that led her here. Tinder date got off onto my floor of my apartment building but was ducking wasted and forgot which apartment was mine, so she started yelling my name as loud as she could. I opened my door to see all my neighbors standing in their doorway staring at her. She had a 6-pack of wine coolers in one hand and her heels in another. I told her to get in my apartment quickly and started apologizing to everyone else. Most just rolled their eyes and shut their doors, but the dude across the hall started clapping. Thanks 8F. Did you grab a beer with him afterwards? It was NYC, we all mostly kept to ourselves. We were staying with my boyfriend's family for Christmas. It was my first time meeting them. The second night of our stay, I sneaked out of my boyfriend's room with only his big hoodie on after sexy times to pee. His mother was standing behind the toilet door when I came out and said, "You know, these walls are very thin. Anyway, you want something to eat?" Freshman year in the dorms, one of the last days of the semester, a girl on a different floor invites me to come to her room and hang out. I obviously know what she's trying to do, so I ask her if her roommate is gone. She says she left for the semester. So I go down and get to her room, and we get started. We start talking a little, then started kissing, then she starts sucking me off. And in a matter of minutes, I hear a card hit the scanner and the door opens to her roommate and her roommate's mom. Door swings open and within seconds they slam it shut. I get dressed and walk out the door, while they're still just standing there in shock. As I walk away, I hear roommate's mom start raising her voice saying, "Are you serious? You have got to be kidding me," and stuff like that. Walking back to my dorm on my floor, I'm not wearing boxers and my shorts were slightly wet from her slobber all over my dick. People definitely saw and knew what was up. As for the girl who I was with, her roommate's mom basically kept calling her a slut and didn't let her daughter dorm with her this semester. Like, okay Karen, your daughter has had more sex than me, chill. Wow, that mom was a bitch, wasn't even her kid. Was going really hard. Pushed a little bit too hard and farted right as I came. A girlfriend might have laughed it off. My Tinder date did not. Lost balance taking off skinny jeans, foot wouldn't come out in time and smashed a mirror with my face. At least something got to smash that night. My front teeth are crowns from a skateboarding accident when I was a kid. In the military I knocked one out and spent a month using denture glue to hold it in place until my dentist appointment. Under the crown was a small bit of tooth, the crown attached to like a post. During that time I had also just started a romantic relationship with my now wife, and had not mentioned my hillbilly tooth. During an Australian encounter, my tooth fell out and I was too preoccupied to notice. When I returned from down under and we were kissing, she noticed. She pulled my head back to see what was up and did a full-on double take at my mouth. I realized what happened and started trying to explain when she reached down, fumbled around at her bits, pulled out my tooth that had been stuck to one of her labia, and held it out to me quizzically. I almost died, but she still married me a few years later. When my girlfriend saw my big dig for the first time, she said, "Aw, it's so cute." I didn't know how to react. My boyfriend at the time had started to develop erectile dysfunction, so after finally managing to get him hard, he deflated before getting it in and cried. All of his roommates heard him sobbing and thought I heard him, so they burst into the room, invasion of privacy much, and find him crying into my tits while both of us are still naked. All I can say is yikes. My GF and I used to go out driving some nights back when we were still in high school. We lived in a small town, so it was a reasonable activity to take part in every now and again. She and I drove out of town about 5 miles, and went down this back road to a little unowned farm property and parked there, assured no one would see us. We got jiggy with it, and upon reaching just about our curfew, I went to start my car up to drive us back home. But, what I didn't realize, was that my car did have automatic lights, and I had not actually turned them off all the way. The battery was drained, and my car was not going to start on its own. I called all the friends I could think of to come help us out so we could just sneak back into town, but to no avail. I'd have to call my dad. My dad, for the entirety of my life, has been someone I've been slightly afraid of waking up. He naps a lot, and always seems to do so right around the time I need to ask him for something, and he always sounds angry when I do. I can only imagine how he must have felt when I called him at nearly 1 a.m., way past curfew at this point, to ask him to come and save us. But he did. I had to give him directions to this spot we had picked specifically because it was hard to get to, and eventually he got there. I had to get out of the car, my girlfriend watching, and work with him to get my car jump-started again. Surprisingly, he didn't even seem all that angry. Just got my car started and went home, my girlfriend and I following close behind. To my surprise, he never asked, grilled me about it, and either never told my mom, or told her never to ask me about it either. Oddly, after that, I even felt like my dad treated me with an oddly heightened amount of respect, which hasn't dwindled since. TLDR, GF and I parked a car in the country to take things to the bone zone, but my car battery died and I had to ask my dad to come save us. One night my BF and I were at a bar and drinking a lot, and we thought it would be a good idea to go to him Camaro to fuck. This was in the late 90s or early 2000s, and I was wearing one of those long skirts with really high slits on both sides. So basically, even if you thought the skirt was scrunched up, it really was just the front or back part. So we finish up and go back inside. This was a bar and not a club, so it was fairly lit. I almost immediately run into a group of girls I went to high school with. We were not really friends, so I assumed the conversation was strained and awkward because of the hollow catching up. Shortly after I escaped and went to the bathroom, I basically had smeared cum all over my skirt. It was a combo of mine and his. On the front panel of skirt. Like literally on the bottom. On the top. From being bunched up, it was all over the inside of the back. It was everywhere. I was so embarrassed. Nice. 2 fun stories. Getting a BJ from my girlfriend. Everything goes well. I finish, go into the bathroom to clean up and whatnot. My big dig is red. Not excited member red. Blood red. It wipes off. There's blood on my big dig. I frantically palpate myself trying to find the source. Nothing. Did I just cum blood? I think something happened. I yell into the other room. My nose is bleeding, comes the reply. There were about 30 seconds of sheer terror for me there. I was so relieved and we laughed about it and I brought her some tissues. Same girl a while later. Getting into sexy times. She's blowing me before we get into it. My roommate's son, like 2 years old, walks into my room for some insane reason I don't remember. He had never come in like that before and I don't remember him ever doing it again. Drunk at a house party. Blowing my high school boyfriend in his very messy room. Gag reflex starts kicking in pretty hard. I've got a bunch of semen in my mouth. The room is dark and I'm stumbling over junk on the floor when I lose balance. Struggling not to hurl after swimming 6 Keystone Lights from my throat going into overload. I had my hands over my mouth. I didn't catch myself before impact. Smack the bridge of my nose into a dresser drawer knob, bloody it, and effectively shoot a mix of blood and semen out of my face. Out of some weird place inside me, I usually laugh when I get hurt in some dumb way, like I am my own personal episode of Jackass, but it's in first person. Boyfriend hit the lights and sees me giggling on the floor using my t-shirt to wipe my face off. He was not laughing in the slightest. Or the time I accidentally tangled my leg in a sheet, pulled to free myself, and kicked a guy square in the nards. That was pretty bad. Strawberry milkshake. I was giving my boyfriend a BJ under the sheets and his grandmother knocked on his door and opened it. She saw us, and my boyfriend screamed at her to get out, but she kept looking. He still screamed at her to get the duck out. After that she left. When she did, he was really mad and embarrassed. I just started laughing and he joined in. When his grandmother came back, I apologized to her about what happened. She said it's okay.